Rolling.
Okay, we're here with Congressman Bob Beauprez,
Beaupre.
Beaupre, and he was going to talk to us about energy policy and what a miracle change there's been in our economic and energy situation.
Well, it's really been tremendously dramatic. We went from a country that was sending $300 or $400 billion dollars a year, to foreign countries, many of them that didn't necessarily have our best interests at heart, to buy the energy we needed to run our economy, heat our homes, move our cars, do all the things that we do in the United States of America. Today, we are virtually energy independent. We are producing oil, natural gas. We're relying on renewables. Coal has gotten a resurgence with this president, which I think is a good thing. So we have harvested the resources that God has blessed us with. That has a huge economic benefit. That $300 or $400 billion is obviously not leaving our shores, but we've also created a lot of jobs in America to produce, refine, distribute those energy resources. It also has a huge national security component to it, and I think this is something that gets talked about very little, is that we're not sending all of those dollars to countries and regimes that may not have our interests at heart. And some of those regimes were so corrupt that money was finding its way into terrorist organizations, and we know what they're all about.
It's all about the miracle of capitalism, right? When you get your foot off the neck of the producers and you let them produce, you give them freedom, you deregulate the situation, our entrepreneurs know what to do.
Well, you've said it very well, and that's exactly correct. I know that there's some concern about fracking. Look, we have never, ever in the history of humankind been able to harvest natural resources safer, more efficiently than we can right now. That is a blessing. That is a blessing. And we have utilized that blessing, that advancement, trusting people, getting your, as you said, get your foot off the neck of, get your boot off the neck of people that can figure out how to accomplish what we thought at one time was impossible. So we're harvesting more natural resources safer, more efficiently, and providing cheaper energy, and it's American energy to our own economy. It's a wonderful thing to see, and we still have vast amounts. I asked the question of the Secretary of Energy, how much do we really have? We used to talk in terms of limited resources, so many years of this and so many years of that. The truth is, we don't know. We're continually finding more and more reserves and finding more and more ways to harvest those reserves than previously people ever thought possible. So it's a very good thing. In the meantime, we're still pursuing renewables. We're still funding the research and development of especially solar and wind and geothermal and nuclear, and they will have an increasing percentage of our total national energy component. But for the time being, we're still fossil fuel dependent. About 80-85% of all of our energy comes from fossil fuels. And fortunately, that fossil fuel now is being produced right here in the US of A.
So shouldn't we remove those subsidies for those energy producers that are not efficient and not meeting the market's demands based on market prices? Wouldn't it be fair for everybody to compete equally? And wouldn't that ultimately be a better investment or get more bang for the buck? I was wondering, that wasn't included in the tax reform, was it?
I can't speak extremely specifically to the tax bill, but I think you're correct. I would like to see those subsidies removed, and I'd like to see a level playing field. Level for fossil fuels as well as for renewables, for all of them. Let them compete in the open market. Now, having said that, I'm not opposed to continuing to do research and development for clean coal technology, for better ways to harvest our other fossil fuels, natural gas and oil, but especially for renewables. They need a little bit of help for research, and that's fine. But what we're talking about now, the big difference is actually subsidizing those various sources and picking winners and losers. A free market society, a society built on capitalism as America is, should not be given to those kind of false choices of subsidization.
Yes, because we want an efficient investment of capital. That's what creates wealth in a country. If you malinvest and you invest in the wrong places, then you don't get a good return. And the best way to assure malinvestment is by subsidizing an industry where, in fact, the market is not saying that we need more of that at that price. So you're wasting capital and the country is poor when you do that. I think you brought up another important point, which was the Malthusian thesis that we're going to run out of resources and all that. That's just turned out to be nonsense for more than a century.
1977, Jimmy Carter gave a now infamous speech and told the country that by the next decade, that would have been sometime, he said, in the 1980s, the world, not just America, the world would run out of oil and gas. And we know now what a crazy statement that turned out to be, totally erroneous. We are living in a time. I mean, I think let's boil it down this way. God has blessed us, especially the United States of America. He's answered our prayer. We say it all the time. God bless America. Every time we go to a baseball game, God bless America. And He has, with these abundant resources, and much of the world the same way. And he's entrusted people with the intelligence to develop the ways to safely harvest and utilize those resources. That's not wasteful. That's not damaging to the environment. That's a good thing for humanity, especially if we do it for the good of all humanity. And that's been the beauty of the United States of America. Do you trust in people or do you not? In the goodness of the people. Sure, we need regulation and we need oversight, but the vast majority of people, and especially no system ever in the history of mankind has lifted more people out of poverty, has provided prosperity and opportunity to more people than the free market capitalistic system that we embrace in America.
Yeah, that's so clear to me, and I'm wondering why it's not clear to everyone. And every country that experiments with a little bit more capitalism starts to become more wealthy. So, but I want to get back to the voters and the citizens of our country. If you have any doubt about this, check your prices at the pump. What are they? Go to Europe and see what the prices are there. Go somewhere else and see what the prices are there. Now, why? Because they have even more subsidies and more interference and more regulation. And so, who pays the price? The citizens have to pay more for the gas that they buy.
That's right. It sooner or later it comes back to the consumer. Somebody has to provide all that subsidy, and then government gets a piece of the action as they take it from this one and give it to that one.
Yeah, I was glad to see that apparently that gas tax isn't going to go into effect, because that would be like a killer, right?
It would, and the gas tax is such a regressive tax. It hits the people hardest who can least afford it. So it's a very regressive tax. And it's also a declining revenue source. I was on the Transportation Committee when I was in Congress, and learned then, and it's only gotten more compounded. At one time it made sense, I guess, to say, well, we'll tax gasoline because that's kind of a user fee, right? The people that use the highways are paying the tax. Well, increasingly our cars are going farther. We say that's a good thing on a gallon of gas. But the other issue is that a lot of cars are not even using gas at all. They're running on natural gas, or they're running on electricity, other forms of energy. So they're not paying any tax either. And so it's a declining revenue stream. Raising the gas tax would just further compound an already failed system.
Yeah, well, I've been following this gas tax and how they use that money for a couple of decades at least, or if not more. And they rate it for every other thing that they want to spend money on. Then they say that the infrastructure is in bad shape. Well, because you didn't spend any money on infrastructure, you raid the fund. So I'm really happy that they didn't include that. And